What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. Now, I want to make a quick video and emphasize something right here. All right, now, you see this blue over here? This is like the little small water channels within the continent of Africa. There used to be massive mega lakes throughout the continent of Africa. Now, I want brothers and sisters to understand that those lakes were the ancient highways where those particular individuals, brothers and sisters, were able to sail and travel throughout. They used to fish for not only game, but their food, all right, and trade. And they also shipped goods going on the ancient riverbed highways. And once various different animals that once flowed in those doggone mega lakes and different rivers that were much wider, they closed later on, forming later on what we call the Sahara Desert. Now, the Sahara Desert, which is now is, was not always there. So as that area dried up, the life that was once in that area shifted and migrated to different areas. Excuse me. Some migrated more over here. Some might have continued over to here. And some migrated out here. All right. And I say that because that happened here in the Americas where the waterways dried up. And I want to say this, man. I want brothers and sisters to really put their thinking hats on. No population, black folks weren't just sitting in West Africa waiting for white folks to capture us and to bring us here to America. That's the most asinine, dumbass statement I've ever heard. But unfortunately, our people believe that. We've been misled by boule Negroes sucking their cigars, you know, drinking their Jose Cuervo, whatever the hell that mess that they drink, man. they caviar, eating their caviar and drinking all their champagne, lying to our people. They just don't know. They just speaking out of ignorance. Is that once those areas start to dry up, those individuals needed something that was there, a great strong life source. And that water, those great waterways, those mega oceans were a great life source. So as those areas, like I said, dried up, people migrated out. And so, like I said, I always said, you always had black folks here, but then you had another group coming over here from different areas, like the area region, what is now known as Sahara, as the area dried up, come to an area where they know where the level of water is very abundant. And there's a large amount of water in that region. Um, and they use their technology of shipbuilding and sailing around the world to sail to different places. That's why a lot of those mounds are built by large bodies of water. And when I was reading G.J. Campbell Dunn book, I want to say, he didn't mention in his book, but I want to talk about how black people, ancient black people, had not only they had ships to travel the world, but they shipped animals and different objects within large bodies of water. Because over in India, there's um, what you call drawings of giraffes in India. So obviously, the Negroes transport their giraffes from that certain region of Africa over to India, and then went from India, the Negroes from India went to Africa. And just like America went to Africa, Africa's going to the Americas, and in the Americas, blacks went to Europe, whatever, etc. It was always constant travel movement. We have to stop listening to individuals who believe that, who continue to regurgitate lies, say we're descendants of a transatlantic slave trade. That is inaccurate and it's not true. And I know from my studying that is totally asinine and just plain old lazy research and just being ignorant when you continue to preach and push that information. Those of us who are really educated on our history know that most black Americans are not descendants of African slaves, most black Americans are descendants of the Aboriginal Indians that were here. It's not no hatred of so-called Africa. It's the fact of who we really are. And most of us who really study this stuff know this. But unfortunately, you get your little Negroes who went to their Notre Dame or to their Harvards or Fiscal Howard. They have been heavily indoctrinated with lies at their PWIs or their HBCU Negro universities, being taught Negritude nonsense. And it's very unfortunate, man. It's very unfortunate that we have been hoodwinked and bamboozled and flat out lied to about who we truly are. I've shown pictures. I've shown the Indians of the Florida area. I've shown Indians of Alabama. I've shown them in Illinois. I showed them out on the West Coast. I showed them in the Northeast. The original Indians were black people, man. There's no escaping this. And if you Negroes want to sit there and deny this, man, right there tells me you are an enemy. Period. But there's too much of this information out here to tell you who the true Indian people were. And what really black Americans who we so-called are. We are the original Aboriginal blacks that were already here. Most of our ancestors were here. There weren't that many slaves brought here, but you did have very different black people from different parts of the world coming here, selling here. Like I said, in Africa, the Sahara region dried up. So a lot of those brothers and sisters who were having boats and then selling within that region started to sell out even more in a way into other lands where there was other black people who already were there. And they were selling land throughout the lands, the world themselves. So you gotta understand this. And they built not only dugout canoe type ships, but they had wooden ships, wooden sophisticated ships. Like I said before, ships that weren't nailed together, they were bind together or tied together with rope. All right, and I'm telling you this, that the fact is our history is very deep and is more sophisticated and is more in depth from what we've been told. I'm tired of hearing about Negroes marching Edmund Pettus Bridge as my history. I am tired of hearing my history. It said that we were just freed as slaves in 1863. I'm tired of this mess, man. That is not our history. Our history is a global history, but particularly we are the Aboriginal people of this land. Some of you do not want to hear this because you've been so indoctrinated and you believe you know everything when in actuality you know nothing because you've been miseducated. And damn near everything that you have originated with some Negro. But see, you cannot phantom that because you have so much self-hatred of yourself and you worship white folks. And that's a problem. You will talk about your own like a dog, but then you will propel and praise white folks or others. That's sick. But unfortunately, you have Negroes with their ignorant negritude continue to do things like that. So I told you before in my videos, I grew up around the black boule. I know how them Negroes get down. And I know that most of them Negroes don't know anything. They brag about what they have. They brag about who they are. And I didn't do that. You know, I come from a well-stocked, nice neighborhood, nice group of black people. But I do not see myself in such as that boule attitude. I never liked that attitude. Because a lot of that stuff always rubbed me the wrong way. And then lots of times when I start studying the history, I start realizing, man, a lot of stuff they were saying is a bunch of garbage. But these niggas already kept talking about the slave trade, slavery, this and that. And I don't deny slavery ever existed. What I would deny is the fact that most of us was brought over in ship. White folks brought us over in ship. No, most of us are already here. The information's there. I have documented with my videos about who we really are. and how the similarities of these damn names, man. That's not a coincidence. Like I said, I have a belief where the name Asia comes from, but I want to get more of my documentation to really back that up. But I have a belief where the damn name Asia comes from. But you have black so-called deities being honored and revered globally. And many of these places were ancient stationary stops that our brothers and sisters, when they sailed around the world, they would stop at, and they build in those different locations. I said before, Egypt was in America, Egypt was in Africa, Egypt was in Europe, Egypt was in Asia, Egypt was in Australia. Our ancestors traveled the world. You gotta get out that slave mindset. Think you just brought up here as a slave and talk about slave ships. Brothers and sisters sailed around the world. They had the technology and the intellectual fortitude to have done that, which they did do that. But unfortunately, many of you don't believe that, so you continue to believe that mess what your oppressor tells you, what the foreigner tells you, even some foreigners who look closely like us. A lot of that water, like I said, it dried up over in Africa in the region of the Sahara, but also as the sand started to build up, it covered a lot of that water, and some water is still there, but it's buried deep under the sand. I want you to be more critical, brothers and sisters, in your research and your studying. That's why I emphasize this stuff all the time. I want you to understand that we are more than just, quote, so-called 300, 400 years brought here in a slave ship. No, we are the Aboriginal black Europeans that were already here. And I'm going to continue to emphasize that. That needs to be said. That needs to be emphasized. That needs to be talked about more. But when you hear your so-called educated blacks, like I said, they're not very educated, they continue to regurgitate them coming over here as slaves, being descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, which is a lie, because most of you are descendants of the Aboriginal black Indians that were already here. Now, I've said that around 3 or 4 times already. That's what you are. And if you do not like that, that's on you. And that's an insult to your damn ancestors. Our ancestors are constantly telling us, man, all this information continues to come out. All this information is continuing to be seen. All these different digs. I told you about the Miami Circle. I told you about the encampment that's said to be over 7,000 years old. Actually older than that. In Miami. Because brothers and sisters were global people and they built everywhere. And I emphasize this, America is not the new world. It is the old world, as well other places are the old world. Stop listening to Negro scholars tell you things are the new world. It's not. See, those fools didn't expect a brother like me to come along and to really read this stuff and get very detailed on what the hell I'm talking about. But unfortunately, you have most of these scholars don't believe that you're going to actually put in the work and actually study this stuff because they realize that most people don't read or read like they should. So this is just me making this video, man. We need to critically continue to study our damn history, our true history. Our true history. Peace and love, brothers and sisters.